Oh, we already started the video. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our channel. I'm Mahesa, and today we have really interesting topic to discuss. Something that connects ancient indigenous culture with modern environmental law. It's called Pachamama. In this video, we're going to answer three big questions. First, what exactly is Pachamama? Sounds interesting to learn, right? Second, does Indonesia need a formal agreement with Ecuador about the environment? Wow. And third, can Indonesia actually apply this Pachamama concept like Ecuador did? These three big questions we will answer in this video. So stay tuned. I'm here with my friends Eva, Aqil, Nanda, and Rheina. Let's jump right in. Let's go.
Thanks, Mahesa. So, what is Pachamama? The word Pachamama comes from the Quechua language which is spoken by indigenous people in the Andes Mountains of South America. Pacha means word or earth, and Mama means mother, so Pachamama literally means Mother Earth. For indigenous communities in countries like Ecuador, Bolivia, and Peru, Pachamama is not just a symbol. They truly believe that the earth is a living being. She is alive, has feelings, and most importantly, has rights, just like humans do. This belief is the basis of what we call the rights of nature. Instead of seeing nature as something humans can freely use or exploit, this idea says the nature, such as forests, rivers, mountains, and oceans, has the right to exist, stay healthy, and recover from damage. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine a factory dumping chemical waste into a river. In a normal law, people usually need to prove that humans were harmed before taking legal action. But under the Pachamama concept, the river itself has rights. So even if no human is hurt yet, damaging the river is already a violation of the law. This way of thinking is very different. It changes our mindset from humans are the center of everything to nature also matters and deserves its protection. Now, Aqil will explain how Ecuador turned this idea into real law.
Thank you, Eva. So how did Ecuador make Pachamama part of their legal system? In 2008, Ecuador became the first country in entry world to include the right of nature direct in its national constitution. This was a moment in legal history. Article 71 to 74 of Ecuador Constitution clearly states that nature, which they call Pachamama, has the right to exist, to be maintained, and to regenerate its own life they chose. And here what makes it even more powerful: any person, any community, or any group can go to court on behalf of nature. You don't need to personally affected by the environmental damage. You can fight for the river, the forest, or the ecosystem just because it's being harmed. This has equally been tested in the court cases. One famous example in the Bamba river case in 2011. A road construction project was dumping launched amounts of rocks and debris into the Pachamama River. Local residents went to court, not for themselves, but on behalf of the river, and the court ruled in favor of the river. The construction had to stop, and the damage had to be repaired. That's how powerful this law is. Ecuador also strengthened this with the original law of nature 2021, which created clear mechanisms for the government and citizens to protect ecosystem in practice. So Ecuador has shown the world that it's equally possible to give legal right to nature, and those right can be enforced. Now the question is, should Indonesia work together with Ecuador on this? Nanda will answer that.
Does Indonesia need agreement with Ecuador? Great explanation, Aqil. So, does Indonesia actually need a formal agreement or treaty with Ecuador specifically about the environment? The honest answer is a one-on-one treaty between Indonesia and Ecuador is not urgently necessary right now. But there are very strong reasons why Indonesia should build environmental cooperation with Ecuador and learn from their experience. Why? Because Indonesia and Ecuador actually face fairly similar environmental challenges. Both the countries have some of the world's most important tropical rainforests, but struggle with deforestation, biodiversity loss, illegal mining, and pollution. And both countries have large indigenous communities who have lived closely with nature for hundreds of years. Communities whose traditional knowledge about protecting the environment is incredibly valuable. A formal cooperation agreement or even informal collaboration through international organizations like the UN Environment Programme would allow Indonesia to access Ecuador legal experience, exchange environmental research, and develop better policies together. This kind of cooperation between developing countries is actually something the United Nations actively en- encourages. It's called South-South cooperation. Beyond that, in global climate negotiation, like the annual Co-op Climate Conference, Indonesia and Ecuador standing together as mega diverse tropical countries would give about nation a stronger voice. Indonesia already participates in Indonesian programs like REDD Plus, which aim to reduce deforestation. Liberties with Ecuador could strengthen this kind of works. So while a specific bilateral treaty is the most urgent priority, building environmental knowledge, sharing, and cooperation between Indonesia and Ecuador would be genuinely valuable for both countries. Now, the biggest question of all, can Indonesia actually apply the Pachamama concept, Rheina?
Thanks, Nanda. Okay, this is the question I find most exciting. Can Indonesia apply something like Pachamama? My answer is yes, it's possible, but it will require real effort, strong political will, and a lot of public support. Let's start with why it actually fits Indonesia. Indonesia is one of the most biodiverse countries on the planet. It has over 17,000 islands, massive rainforests in Kalimantan and Papua, and hundreds of indigenous communities, like the Dayak, the Baduy, and the Asmat people, who have lived in deep harmony with nature for centuries. These communities already practice their own version of Pachamama. They already treat nature with respect as a living, sacred thing. Indonesia's national philosophy, Pancasila, and the concept of kearifan lokal, which means legal local wisdom, already align very well with the Pachamama idea. Protecting and living with nature is already deeply embedded in Indonesian culture. However, there are real challenges we need to be honest about. Right now, Indonesia's legal system treats nature as an object, as a resource for humans to use. Changing this would require major amendments to existing environmental laws, and possibly even to the Constitution itself. That is not a simple process. There is also a significant tension between development and conservation. Indonesia is still a growing economy. There are strong economic pressures from industries like mining, palm oil, and large infrastructure projects. Giving legal rights to nature could complicate or slow down some of these projects, and that makes it a very politically sensitive issue. But, and this is important, it is not impossible. Some local governments are already moving in a positive direction. There is also growing momentum from environmental NGOs, youth climate activists, and academics who are pushing for stronger nature protection laws in Indonesia. The realistic path forward is to start small, build awareness, push for regional regulation first, then slowly work towards national policy change. It takes time, but it's absolutely doable. Back to Mahesa for our final talks.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back with me again. Before we going further, let me say thank you so much to Rheina. Thank you to Eva, Aqil, and Nanda. So let's go. We're going to do a quick recap for everything we covered today. Pachamama is the indigenous concept of Mother Earth, the idea that nature is a living being with rights. Ecuador was the first country in the world to make this constitutional law in 2008, and it has already been successfully used in a real court case to protect ecosystem. Indonesia doesn't necessarily need a specific bilateral treaty with Ecuador, but cooperation, knowledge sharing, and learning from Ecuador's legal experience would be very beneficial, especially because both countries face similar environmental challenges and share a deep cultural connection to nature. And the answer is yes. Indonesia absolutely can apply the Pachamama concept. The cultural foundation is already there. What needed now is political will, legal reform, and public support, including from young people like all of us. And yeah, that's it. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, share this video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. And also, we love to hear your thoughts. Leave comments below. Do you think Indonesia should give legal right to nature? Thank you for watching this video. See you guys in the next video. Bye bye.